Welcome to Nostology. We're your hosts. I'm Shelley.
And I'm Jessica.
And today we have a special guest on, Wayne Richardson, who is with Richardson Group Appraisers. And he has been in the business. We're going to say he's very seasoned, kind of like me. So he has been doing this for 20 plus years. I met Wayne actually early on in my career. I think I literally had just got started. And so I've been 18 years. And so Wayne's got me beat on that. And he's been a wonderful friend and resource over the years. And we thought we'd have him on and talk fun appraiser stuff.
Well,
Welcome, Wayne. Welcome. Yeah. So maybe we
appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad you could be here. So we thought we'd let our database, our clients know just kind of what an appraiser does.
Yes.
You know, what exactly do you do when you go into a house? They're kind of scared about this. So can you enlighten us?
I can. And I guess there are phrases that have been used for appraisers like deal killers and all of that.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I've heard that.
I promise that is not what we're there to do. The simple of it is the mortgage company is getting ready to lend money on a particular property, whether it's $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. The appraiser's job is to go in, get our heads around physically what the property is. So we're going to measure, take photos, make a bunch of notes, look at the surroundings, and really understand what that property is. And then we're going to go out and look at what we can find in the marketplace is as similar as we can find to that property. We'll do some adjustments and some other things, and ultimately we'll use that data to determine what the market value of your property is so that the lender can say, if I'm lending X amount, then I know this particular asset is worth X amount in the marketplace. So
absolutely. It's our collateral, right? It's our collateral for the mortgage. So it is really, really important, the job that you do. But yeah, you guys get the bad rap sometimes. Yeah, you do. You're like, that darn appraiser. But hey, lenders get bad rap too. So hey, I get it. We have a tough job.
Especially in the heat of the market in 2020, 2021, when the home prices were going up so high, nothing appraised. And yeah, you were kind of the enemy.
How was that? How was that time frame for you?
It was rough. And it's when you consider the data that we use is going to be as recent as possible, but it's always going to be historic data. So, we're going to use sales data from the last 3 to 6 months. But during that time, when things were moving so quickly in, September, properties looked very, very different, and the market looked very, very different than it did in May or June. And so it was very difficult to keep up because we can't use data that hasn't closed yet. So all we could use is what was in the very recent past. And yeah, that was rough. That was rough.
How are you seeing things right now? Are you seeing many low appraisals at this point?
It's hit and miss. The reality is, Jessica, as you very well know, most real estate agents really understand their markets. They understand those neighborhoods, sometimes down to the very specific subdivision. And so I've seen a lot of, real estate agents, they're able to work with their clients and get properties priced well. So it's kind of hit and miss. Some sellers kind of still hold out for a little bit higher, higher dollar, a top dollar, even though it may not necessarily work out that way. But no, for the most part, most real estate agents are pricing accordingly and having those conversations with, their clients to let them know you want X amount, but we may wind up somewhere else potentially.
Yeah, I haven't seen many. I've only had one low appraisal over the last 2 years, and we knew it was going to be low. Shelley and I were both on that one. Mm-hmm. We knew that they were unrealistic, so we were all prepared for it.
It is what it is.
Yeah. So a big question people always have is,
Sure.
What do my improvements get for my house? So, and it varies. Sometimes it's a pool or it's new flooring, but they want to know if they're going to get their return on it. So I'm curious how you take those into consideration when you see a house with a pool or a renovated space.
Yeah, because those people tend to think like it's a dollar for dollar. Like, okay, I spent, I don't know, $150,000 on the pool. So now my value is $150,000 more, but that's not really how it works, right?
Correct. And ironically enough, that is exactly the type of conversation that I would have with sellers, thinking it's a dollar for dollar. I spent $20,000 on a new roof, so clearly my home is worth $20,000 more. The thing that homeowners or buyers and sellers, anyone involved in the market, really need to understand is, there are a couple different places you're going to spend your money, right? You can spend your money in maintenance and repairs. You can spend your money in updating and upgrading. You can spend money in expanding your property or adding to it. And each of those things is going to kind of do a different thing. The money that we spend in maintenance and repair, if your house needs a new roof or it needs a new water heater or your AC just quit on you, you're potentially going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars that aren't necessarily going to add to the value of your property, but it's going to keep from detracting, that value detracting.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then there's updating and upgrading. The money that you spend, let's say your AC system is 12 years old or 15 years old, or your roof is 8 to 10 years old, which in Texas, an 8 to 10-year-old roof has been completely beat up by the sun and hail and everything.
Yeah.
There are those types of updating that you're going to do to those components that are going to keep you aligned with the market, but they may not necessarily bump you up higher in the market. What's going to change your value is dependent on what other properties in the market are doing and what people are willing to pay for those other things in the market. I always say, I don't determine what a house is worth. The buyers and sellers in a market, they determine what a house or a home is worth. And then I just tell you what the market says. So
love that.
I'm glad you brought that up because the AC is a big one I hear all the time. I'll meet with sellers and they say, well, we just put in a new AC this year and they spent $15,000 on it. It's an expensive replacement and they think it's going to get them more for it. I'm like, well, no, it's the fact that nobody would buy your house if it didn't have AC.
Especially in Texas. Like it's a requirement.
Yes.
You have to have it. So
bare minimum.
Yeah, it is just something that you have to do. Now we market it to make it, desirable because who doesn't love a new AC in a house? But yeah, they expect to get a lot more out of their house just because it has a new AC and it's not always the case.
Well, but the reality is, though, is that some of those things that you'll do to your home may increase the appeal, may not necessarily increase the dollar value, but the increase in appeal may mean your property is only on the market for a week or two before you get an offer versus 2 or 3 months. And that does translate to more money in your pocket. It may also mean that, at the end of 2 weeks, you've got 4 or 5 offers instead of waiting 2 months to get one offer.
Exactly.
So they can indirectly help you.
Right. Yes. Yeah. The desirability of it. So your strongest time is the first couple weeks on the market. So if you hit that, then you're going to get more money. So another question that I hear is, how do we prepare for the appraisal? So as a homeowner that's selling their house, people worry because they stage their home, make it look pretty for all the showings. But then by the time you come out, the house is a mess. They're packing. Do they need to stage again? Do they need to clean the house? Is that being judged?
Okay. Can I just say the things I've seen in some of the pictures, like, please do pick up your underwear off the floor. Yeah. There's just crazy stuff that I've seen in photos that I thought they just were not real prepared for it. Or they didn't care. Maybe they don't care.
It's astounding.
You've probably seen it all, haven't you? What's the craziest thing you've seen? Can you say it?
I don't know that I can discuss the craziest stuff that I've seen. I've seen some crazy stuff. But, some of it is, they're just typical things that we see in a house that's lived in, so toddlers' toys kind of strewn about, or, we're in the middle of laundry. So there's a bunch of laundry, on a sofa in the living room and typical things like that. I would say you don't have to restage your home. You absolutely don't. We're not there to judge your style or cleanliness or your habits or whatever. All we need to do is find out what that property is. However, with that being said, here's the reality. We're going to take photos. A few people are going to look at those photos. When I'm discussing hardwoods or granite countertops or stainless steel appliances or whatever new fixtures you have in, it's probably better that in the photos, those are the things that stick out versus just stuff everywhere. Sometimes that can't be avoided. As Shelley mentioned, a lot of times the appraiser is going to come out after contract has already been submitted and people are getting ready to move. And so there's moving boxes everywhere. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. But if you can, just make an effort to make it semi-presentable. It just makes the photos that we're going to take more illustrative of what we're trying to explain the property is.
That makes sense. I hadn't thought about that. And that's something I think I'll be warning my sellers about because they may not think about that in advance that you're going to be taking pictures. So
I've literally done an appraisal inspection in the middle of a family reunion. And yeah,
What?
and yes, and I told him, I said, look, I do not have to come out on this day. And I think it was a refi. And so they had timelines were like really tight. And they were like, no, if we need you to come out as soon as possible. So I went out there and there were literally like 35, 40 people in this house.
Oh my goodness.
It was hilarious because what they were doing is they would all kind of shift out of one room. I'd get a photo and then they'd all move over to another one. But they're following me the whole time because they're drinking and carrying on and having a great time. I wanted to hang out, but I had work to do. But yeah, it was funny. It was so in the photos, you would never know that there were like 30 to 40 people there. It looked as though the house was empty. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's hilarious.
Funny.
Well, I guess my question was, there's differences in types of appraisals, right? So conventional loans versus FHA. And one of the things that I have seen that has come up on FHA loans specifically is like, if the party wasn't notified, for example, you have to have attic access, and they can't get those photos like it's required, right, for FHA. So there's a little bit different things that an FHA appraisal is going to be looking at versus a conventional appraisal. Have you seen issues kind of come up with anything along those lines, like not being able to access? I don't know what y'all do exactly, but I know there was one that there was an attic access that was blocked and it was an elderly person and they couldn't move all the boxes. And your job is not to move boxes out of the way. It needs to be accessible, right?
Yeah. Yeah. As well as there's a degree of liability involved in us physically moving other people's belongings around. But yeah, so FHA and conventional products have, their own guidelines. For FHA, we do need to access the attic. We do need to be able to access the crawl space if you're in a pier and beam. We've got to check appliances. We've got to, run water, flush a commode or two. We need to make sure that all of the systems that are part of the property, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, are actually functioning. So yeah, we can't complete an FHA appraisal without having access to those things. And sometimes we've had to go back out so they could get, something fixed with electrical or have a relative move the boxes so that we can access the attic or the crawl space. Conventional, I will say, is not to that degree, but there is a lot of crossover for, conventional appraisals. If someone's selling a property and they've already moved out and it's vacant, my understanding is most all lenders want to make sure that the utilities are on. They have to know that things are in working condition. Yes. As well as, some things like safety issues. That's across the board. If there's something that's just dangerous, if there's a fence that's ready to fall down on someone or a patio cover or something that doesn't quite look stable, those are all things that are going to cause issues regardless of whether it's FHA or conventional.
Right. I mean, some of the things I see on my end, like for FHA would be, like brush that is up against the house because they're concerned for termites or the peeling paint, things like that, which FHA doesn't like.
That's a big FHA hot button. And it has to do with the exterior of the home. And it's date specific. However, I don't even want to get into the date of the year because it's very important that people know, even if it's a home that was built in 2000 or 2015, if there's any exposed exterior wood or damaged exterior wood, flaking paint, or just unpainted exterior wood, that is a no-go for FHA. FHA wants to make sure that all exterior wood is in good condition and sealed.
Good to know. Good to know. Because most of the time on the conventional loan, it comes back as is, right? Other than, Wayne, you and I years and years ago had the situation where, and I learned this because this was probably, 17 years ago, maybe, where you were inspecting a property and you gave me a call and you're like, oh, Shelley, this one's in bad shape. It was a conventional loan. And typically, pretty much anything goes, I'm going to say, with a conventional loan. It's usually as is, right? What I mean by that is no repairs required, typically, right? But this one was what you called a category 5, which was new to me at the time. And you're like, Shelley, this one's not good. Holes, there was mold, there was all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So you were giving me just a heads up of, what the report was going to say about that. So I didn't know that there was a category 5 that basically is non-lendable. it was a client that was buying an investment property, and they're like, we're fine with it. And I'm like, but we're not. Like, I can't lend money on a category 5 home.
Right.
Can you explain a little bit like what that means? Because there's categories 1 through 5, and boy, that was new to me and blew my mind.
Yes. And so they're condition categories. They're quality categories, which are something else, but condition categories. And it has to do with just that, the condition of the property. But it goes from, 1 to 5 with respect to brand spanking new, everything's new, up to this property is not livable. And one of the differences, if, homeowners are not aware, between FHA and conventional, whenever you are getting a mortgage, is that for FHA, there are certain things that they have to be fixed or we can't move past. But for conventional programs, we just have to say, this is what the property is, and we can do it as is and just say, just so you know, this is it. However, if it gets to the degree where it's just a serious issue with livability, like an unknown substance, I won't use the M word because we're not really supposed to use the M word.
Boy.
But yeah.
Sorry.
But,
I said it out loud.
No, that's absolutely fine. But that's the reality, right?
Oh, it was not good.
Right. Something growing, some sort of unknown substance, or just structurally, or broken windows, or anything that, just like I said, makes the property not livable. And the way I would present it to people, especially when someone wants property really bad, they want to challenge it and say, well, it's not that bad. The way I would present it is I would go, okay, fine. Would you let your children run around in the house, in this house as it is, barefoot? Or would you let them eat a sandwich here? And
oh my goodness.
If the answer to that is no, then you understand what I'm saying.
So I own an investment property, and when we bought it, it's a condo down in Port Aransas, and it had the building. The whole building was under renovation from Hurricane Harvey when we bought it. I was waiting for that. I thought we were going to get a category 5 because the property wasn't open. It was a hard hat only area. We had no railing on the balcony on a 4th floor. I don't know how it didn't get a category 5, but we passed and we were able to get it. I sat there. I was so worried. I didn't know what was going to come of that appraisal, but yeah, no railing. There was no way my kids were going to be in that place.
And that's something like that is definitely a red flag, because that's a real safety issue. I will tell you. There's a property I did a really long time ago. This is probably in the first year or two that I was appraising. It was this 2-story property out on land. And when I first got there, I was kind of doing an exterior visual inspection. And I looked up on the 2nd story and I saw a door that was just a door on the 2nd story. There was nothing else. There was no balcony or deck or anything. And I thought, maybe that there was some sort of an afterthought, and when I get up there, it will be drywalled over on the inside. And so when I got inside, I immediately went upstairs to that room, and nope, it was absolutely a door. It was not sealed or anything. I unlocked it, I opened it, and there I would have been able to step off and fall about 16 feet to the ground. Yeah.
Oh, seriously.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Those are the kind of things we see. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fun.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you see it all.
Well, and Shelley, I don't know if I don't think this was your deal, but it was, this was quite a while ago as well. I went to a property, and I remember looking at the MLS listing, and it mentioned a sparkling pool. And when I got there, I went to the backyard.
Okay, I don't remember a sparkling pool, but
yeah. So I'm like, all right, great. You've got a pool. I mean, it's summer. Maybe I'll dip a toe in or something. But I get there and I go into the backyard, and not only is it not a sparkling pool, there's almost no water in it. There's maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet of murky, muddy water at the bottom of it that looked like the creature from the Black Lagoon was going to crawl out of it. But the pool had also popped up out of the ground. And it was the first time I had ever seen that. And it popped up out of the ground so far that I literally stuck my leg down in the space in between the pool and the ground and took a photo, and then sent that photo to the loan officer on that deal. So I guess it was.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I don't remember
hey, yeah, I was like, hey, not only is this property not getting any contributory value for a sparkling pool, but there's some cost involved. So I guess it's going to take some value. But yeah, I'd never seen that before.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
I love that the description was sparkling.
I will
One of the
never
things
forget
I've
that.
seen, I have seen some descriptions that you sit there and look at the pictures. You're like, have you looked at this house yourself before you wrote this? Now with AI, I think some of it's people just plug something into AI, like ChatGPT or something, to get a description because it doesn't match at all. But yeah,
Okay.
it's interesting. So another question that I get sometimes, or comment from buyers after we get their appraisal back, they notice that it very often comes in at the exact price of our offer. And so I've heard them say, well, that's convenient. Did they do anything, or did they just put in the price? So why is it so common to see the exact sales price on the appraisal?
That is an excellent question. There's a simple answer to that. The reality is, when we're working with our comps and when we're looking at market differences between properties, and after we do all of our adjustments, we really tend to wind up with a range, a small value range. Now,
Right.
per our guidelines, we're required to give it a specific value, but the reality is there's normally a small range. And so when the sales price is inside that range, as an appraiser, what I do is go, okay, I'm looking at all market data. So this contract sales price on this particular property is also market data for me. So when, let's say the sales price is 405 and the range of adjusted comparables is, 395 to 410. Well, as I'm kind of reconciling and trying to find kind of a central point of tendency for those values, if that sales price is there, then I'm going to go right to it, because that tells me not only does the overall market, support that price, but we have an actual buyer and a seller for this property in this market that want it for this much. That's the reason why I see that.
Yeah,
I
but that makes
never
sense.
understood that either.
Yeah.
I love that.
I mean, it doesn't make sense because it is, the market value is what a buyer is willing to pay and seller is willing to take. So that contract is showing that that's what a buyer and seller are willing to do. So
Absolutely. And now that you said that, I'm thinking about, I know a while back I had one that was like, it literally was $2,000 short.
Mm.
And I'm like, really? Like, it wasn't in the range? Now that's what I'm thinking. Like $2,000? Like, how?
Well, and that happens. And it's funny, as much as I hate to say it, I've been that appraiser before. And it has to do with
You
whether
got to
or
do
not,
your job.
yeah, and it has to do with whether or not that sales price is within the supported range. If it's outside of it, the best we can do is say all of this data supports up to this price. And if it's outside of that, you would literally have underwriting kick it back and go, hey, none of your comparables support this, even if it's only $2,000 or $3,000.
Yeah.
Good question.
Well, I guess the last thing that I have for you, I'm just curious, is there something that you wish lenders, agents, buyers, sellers would know about what you do or about the process? Is there something that drives you crazy that we do or ask?
You guys don't drive me crazy.
Price per square foot, Wayne. Price per square foot.
Wow. That's so funny. In 20 years, I would have assumed that the whole price per square foot debate would eventually go away, but it is a real thing that is kind of embedded in what we do. So yeah, I will say that's one of the things is, from an appraiser standpoint, we don't do a raw dollar per square footage number as a way of appraising a house, because there are too many different things that go into the value of a property that don't have anything to do with square footage. So using dollar per square foot, it's a good way to kind of retroactively look back at the market to see what things have typically sold for in a neighborhood, but you can't really use it prospectively moving forward, because you can have the same 2,000 square foot home, 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage, but one is on a 20,000 square foot lot, one's on a 7,500 square foot lot. It's going to change the price. One may back up to a golf course. The other may back up to a Walmart parking lot, or a busy road. There are just too many different things that change value that don't have anything to do with the square footage. So that number would be skewed and moving all over the place. The other thing,
something that where there's if a house has more square footage, but it's the same room count, same condition, like you're not going to get the same dollar per square foot that it starts with. Like, it diminishes because that extra, if a couple hundred square feet isn't worth the same. If it's the same number of rooms, you're not getting anything extra out of it except a little bit bigger bedroom or something.
To a degree. And the market tells us all that. But no, you're absolutely right. There are some principles that are kind of universal. And diminishing returns, that's universal. The larger the house gets, the less, even if I looked at it from the perspective of just a raw dollar per square footage number, the larger it gets, the lower that number is going to be. The smaller it is, the larger that number is going to be. It also has to do with what the market cares about. Some markets, every single square foot is really, really important. And so you'll see that in pricing and values. For other markets, there are so many other things going on. 200, 300, 400 square feet doesn't mean a whole bunch to them. And the markets will tell you all of that. Well, we look at that data to determine how, buyers and sellers in that market feel about it.
Yeah.
And I was going to say the other thing, and this is actually a conversation I've had many, many, many times. So when I make appointments to go out to a property, understand this. Let me back up. Appraisers are data driven. We need data. Everything is data. How I feel about it doesn't matter. It's all data. And so, I'll reach out to the selling agent when I'm setting the appraisal inspection appointment. And I just tell them, hey, whatever data you have, whatever you send to me, I'll look at whatever you have, whether it's, information about the property or trending or market analysis, whatever you've done. And a lot of times when I can see based on like a kind of preliminary view of it, that it looks like, it may be close, and I ask them for more data, I'll hear, I promise you, when you get out and you see it, you'll understand. And I'm like, yep, but I'm not buying it. I'm like, but I'm not buying the home, so you don't have to sell me. And I've actually told several real estate agents on that. And I said, that's great, but you're not selling me the property. I'm like, I could think it's absolutely beautiful and it won't matter beyond what the data says. So that's the other thing, is appraisers don't really need to be sold on how nice the property is.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to look at it. We're going to walk it. We're going to measure it. We're going to, make notes. Ultimately, we need data. If you have sales information that maybe is not on MLS, and you can lead me to someone who may get me some more data, or if you understand something specific about the market that maybe I missed, absolutely give me that information. That matters. Whether I like it or not, doesn't matter. There may be things that I think are the total bee's knees about a property, and someone will be like, yeah, I'm changing that the day we close.
Yeah.
And I'm, oh, okay, so yeah.
Well, and I do appreciate that. And there are some great appraisers like yourself that are willing to hear from us. There are also some that won't talk to us, and I know what I'm doing. Don't tell me how to do my job. So I appreciate that you're willing to listen to us and take it, because there's sometimes it's a funky neighborhood where you have overlapping zip codes, school districts, cities within like a single neighborhood, and it could be easy to miss some comps. So there are situations where I send over information. I do have a question. This is, I guess, more for myself now versus for our buyers and sellers, but how are you handling this change where we don't have buyer agent commissions listed in MLS to use with comparables? Because I am noticing a big variance where some people are putting different concessions, some aren't putting them. And I know I've had some deals where like the buyers pay their own agent, so then they get the house at a lower price. Is that impacting your side of things with appraisals?
It is. And to be upfront, I really think the industry's still trying to figure out how all that will work. From an appraiser's perspective, it just means that rather than I don't have a number on an MLS sheet that I can rely on anymore. So I have to reach out to both agents and really get information to hear what was done, who got what. I have to write everything down, and then I kind of have to sit down and go, okay, how did this impact it? Versus, just going, okay, we've got 10,000 of seller help on this one. We've got 7 on this one and none on that one. It's requiring a little more work. But like I said, I think we're still figuring it out. I wouldn't be surprised if it took, to the end of the year for everyone to go, okay, this is how we're going to do it going forward. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I'm handling it too. I'm just calling agents and finding out, especially if I see a variance within a particular property, because like myself, I had 2 almost identical houses in a neighborhood sell. The difference in price was $20,000, because one, my clients paid the buyer agent commission. The other ones, the buyers paid their own. So it made a difference of $20,000. So I have another house going on the market in the neighborhood now, and I'm going to share that with the appraiser so that they know the difference and why that one came in lower. But right now it's all just us having to call each other and share that information.
That's very important. One of the problems kind of built in to what we do is that all we have is available data. All we have is what we can see. But the reality is unless we know every intimate detail about each transaction, it's almost impossible to say 100% I know this. We just get our data and we will tell you what the data says. But there's, in your example where, there was a significant difference and you understood what that difference is and you can pass it on to the appraiser. A lot of other times there may be a difference, and unless you're a fly on the wall and on the buyer side and the seller side during the entire process, there are things you won't know. So that's very important. All the information you can share with us is beneficial.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I have a couple of things because you mentioned data, knowing data. So hopefully I'm steering clients correctly when it comes to refinances, right? Because then there's no agents involved. Somebody is going to be refinancing their home. We get an appraisal ordered. So I always tell the clients, so correct me if this is wrong, Wayne, but I'm always telling them, like, don't follow the appraiser around pointing at everything that you've done to the house. I said, if you would like to leave a list of anything updated or upgrades, repair, that kind of stuff, just leave a list and give it to them and let them do their job. I mean, is that list handy, or am I just like, is it overkill? Do you not even need that?
No, it's not overkill at all. I'm okay with getting a list of things that I'm going to see anyway, because it just kind of helps me make sure I haven't missed anything. And a lot of times it may not necessarily be so that I can go, oh, this adds here or it subtracts there. It's more so that I can give a more descriptive, view of what the property is, just so I can say it has A through Z, so you understand what I'm seeing. The more information, the better. They can follow me around if they want. I'm telling you, I'm more chatty than I need to be. A little bit too chatty. There have been times where I've been through an appraisal for like 45 minutes and we're talking about grandkids and sports and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to get to my next appointment. So
this is why you're my favorite. I miss the days, Wayne, when we could actually, pick appraisers for our deals, because you were literally my favorite and you still are. It's just, things changed many, many years ago and you're on my preferred panel, but I don't get to select the appraisers, and no lender really does anymore. Right. So, but it's nice to have that relationship. Oh, I did want to ask. So, in cases where a homeowner needs to get an appraisal, I'm trying to think of what that would be. Like if they need to get an appraisal for just separate from a transaction, in what case would that be?
I mean, sometimes people do it if it's a unique property and we're having trouble figuring out where to price it because it is so unique. Sometimes we suggest getting an appraisal in advance.
Okay. Do you have a particular area, Wayne? Like if we want to put, notes and people can contact you, whether they're homeowners or maybe if another real estate agent is listening to this and they need a fabulous appraiser. We were going to list your information in the show notes, but do you want to be contacted?
Sure. Or I may have a fabulous appraiser I can refer you to. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty much all of the DFW. I'm all over the place. I could be out in as far as Princeton or Josephine, Nevada, that area, or I could be in Hazlitt or up north of 380 or down in Cedar Hill, all over the place. And there are a number of reasons a person might get an appraisal. I get calls all the time for, sometimes it's pre-listing. They just want to make sure before they put their house on the market that they know what an appraiser is going to say it's worth, so that they don't get into a situation where they're 90% through a transaction, once they have a contract and realize, oops, I'm 20 grand short or 30 grand short. Sometimes to make sure their tax assessment is right. There's probate things that I get calls on. Sometimes just portfolio management. There are a number of different reasons that people might want, to know the market value of their property, because market value is different from other things. It's not like insurance value or other values. So market value specifically. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So we'll put your information in our show notes and we'll share it on our social media channels as well.
Yes. Oh, you know what? Okay. I'm sorry. I just thought of one more thing. Sorry, Wayne. Can't let you go yet.
Sure. Not a problem.
You mentioned taxes. So that's kind of one of the things when people are in a transaction, they are concerned that, say, the house appraises for more, but their taxes are less. So they're concerned with the entities talking, right? So can you address that? Like, do you talk to the tax county or the entity? How does that work?
Great question. Very relevant question, because I get that a lot. The appraisal that I do, let's say when you're doing a refi, the appraisal that I do, you're my client. The lender is the client. You're the only entity that I am giving that appraisal to, that I'm giving that information to. I do not share it with the county, the state, or anyone else. We're not even allowed to. A homeowner can use it either way to benefit them, however they choose it. If their property appraises for more than what they see on their county tax assessment, they're under no obligation with me to share that with anyone.
Right. Don't share it.
Or if it appraises for less, well, then they can just say, hey, I have a document here that shows this is a current market value of it and it's less. And
fight your property taxes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Because I do tell people that because sometimes they get concerned. They're like, my taxes are going to go up on this refi. And I'm like, they don't talk.
So Texas, for our listeners, is a non-disclosure state. So
Correct.
It is not reported. So when you close on a house, though, it is common to get something in the mail after you've moved in that asks you questions about the sale. So then they're going to ask the sales price. You do not have to fill out that form. You do not have to tell them what you paid for it. So just a little PSA
Absolutely
there.
Don't. You don't. No, non-disclosure.
Well,
yes.
But I would say, but the good thing about that specific system is that, and referring back to 2021, when properties were just appreciating so quickly, my understanding is most of the county appraisal districts in the area, when a person purchases a property, if they give the county appraisal district a copy of their settlement statement or their contract, I believe it's 2 years that they will set their assessed value at their sales price. So if it was just to pull numbers out of thin air, $400,000 property that they got for $385, my understanding is if they provide that to them, then they'll have 2 annual cycles. Well, they'll leave it at the $385 before they start to increase it from there.
That's interesting.
That's great information. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And I'm not sure if it's all. I'm not sure if it's every one of them, but I have heard it for a few. Like I think Denton County, Dallas County.
Okay.
Good to know.
Good. Yeah.
You have been a wealth of information.
Yes. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Anytime.
All right. You can check us out on our socials, Facebook and Instagram. It's Nestology Podcast. And we will be sure to put Wayne's information in there and then in the show notes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining us. Well, we hope you make the best of your nest.
Bye.
Bye.